I mean, there was numerous, and it was a very small resort. There was only 8 rooms.
Okay.
So, you know, and then from there, they, you know, got our luggage, and walked us to our room, and, you know, they talked about, you can do a private dinner, or you can have dinner with other couples, and so,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so as she's saying this, and I want to do each of these 3 experiences, so keep thinking of 2 more. What I heard in just what she was saying, right? Because I think what's important about white glove experience or white glove communication is what someone's feeling from it, right? There's feelings that she talked about, things that like caught her attention that she can recall. I don't know how long ago that was. So she was greeted with something or was like felt special in that moment, right? There was knowledge, she was toured, she was told what was next, she had options, and it was helpful. What else did you guys get from what she just said? Anything else besides that? I guess I should put special, because I think part of it is feeling special, right? Or feeling like someone, like there's an acknowledgement of, we are glad you're here, right? And it's not even just saying, hey, we're glad you're here. It's the feeling that you're like, man, I feel really special in this moment, right?
Sounds like they set the expectation.
Okay. After that was said, did it go downhill or did it stay the same?
Oh, no, it was great.
Okay, okay, so that's part of it is not only do you set the expectation, but you deliver on it or you exceed it, right? Like you got a choice, because if you set the expectation and then you don't deliver at all, this white glove experience that happened for 2 seconds, which I truly believe that agents are really great at, right? You nail that listing appointment, you might nail that buyer appointment, and then all of a sudden, what happens? It is like, right? And then all of a sudden you get a call and you're like, hey, what do we do next? Or, hey, I saw this house. Or, am I supposed to schedule the stager? Is this common? Is what we feel sometimes when we're thinking of like, okay, we get really busy and then we forget the steps, right? Because we're like, oh, we are so excited to get this client. And then all of a sudden we're like, well, we got the client, they're not going anywhere.
You hope.
Oh, right? A lot of times they don't. It becomes difficult because if you don't keep doing this, then it's always like getting, making sure that they keep coming back and they're unhappy and you make them happy again. Okay. Experience number 2. Chris.
Every fall, me and my friends started a tradition to go to Manny's to celebrate just the year and everybody.
Okay.
And it all came about where like 20 of us just wanted to get together and have a good meal.
Okay.
And we've never had a bad experience there. Like,
what do you like about it? Start to finish, what makes it a good experience?
Well, they don't push away the size of our party that comes.
Okay.
And when we go there, they put us like literally in the middle of the restaurant, so we feel like
Special again.
important.
Okay.
Otherwise, I mean, it's a well-known restaurant in the cities. I think they have really good food, but also everybody there is so friendly.
Okay.
They're educated about what they're serving us. So if we have any questions, we can ask like specific questions about like different wine, different cocktails,
Okay.
steak, beef, pork chops, whatever you want to have.
Okay. Anything different in this experience from this experience that you guys heard?
I mean, he said important, I didn't say, but, that would be a different,
Okay. Third experience.
Apple phone support.
Okay.
Reason being is in this world of everything being automated, went through all the frustrations of talking to computers and being sent to this person and holding for 40 seconds and just something as simple as wanting to talk to somebody and get service. Apple, I don't know if anyone's experienced it, but it's incredible. I mean, you don't wait more than 10 seconds for someone to answer. You talk to a human being. You don't push buttons. They ask you what they can do to help. They shadow you and walk you through everything, and they will not hang up. I was on with them for over an hour and a half one day, and they will not hang up or be done until they know that your goal has been accomplished. And very personable. And unlike Manny's, sometimes you get what you pay for. It's just a real great thing that you don't pay for Apple support.
Okay.
Free service that great is something different and special.
And I wouldn't even say it's free, right? Because what you pay for this is even a cooler experience because you bought the Apple product, right? People are like, I don't want to buy an Apple phone. It's like the new one came out and it's like $2,000, it feels like. At least it feels like that when you have 3 kids and they all want a phone. And you're like, can I get the new one? No, I'm gonna be broke. But you pay for that, and then you get services like this after you've already bought the product. Okay, so in my opinion, this was kind of unique, and I didn't even plan for this to be part of it, right? This was the beginning, right? This was kind of the actual in the middle experience that you talked about, it goes all the way through. And then this is the after. When you think of your real estate communication, right? Because I think, again, we start out really great. The middle can be kind of, And then how many of us actually follow up after? Maybe a week after, and then the next time you don't follow up until you have a client event, until it's 3 years later, and you're like, man, now I don't even know if I want to call them because I haven't talked to them in 2 years, right? These are all real things. So I think that the reason I asked, what do you want to get out of this, right? Because we can go super granular, and I can also send that after this class of what it looks like start to finish in templates for emails. We have those. I can send those out. I don't think we have to go over that in this class, right? That's a granular communication. I think there's something larger that we can talk about is what does the experience look like? Start, middle, finish, after. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's did anyone take value square at that class?
I was here.
Okay, so some of you took that class. Before we get into client to agent white glove communication, who else should we have white glove communication with?
Everyone.
Everyone, actually, like human beings, we should talk still. I mean, that's a valid point, Aaron. So it should be agent to client, right? And let's talk professional setting. It should be human to human, but that's a bigger challenge than I'm willing to take on in this one class. Who else?
Agent to agent.
Okay. Well. So agent to any vendor relationship, right? Whether or not it's inspector, whether or not it's vendor, whether or not it's title, whether or not anybody, right? That should be the same exact communication as anybody else. Am I forgetting anybody? Oh, I like that one. Customer.
Emily,
So this could go, here's the other part, client, agent to client, right? It doesn't matter if this person's a client or not, because is a person that comes into your open house or a neighbor a client? They're a prospect, right? So how do we get clients, right? Is agent to prospect. And then if we want to talk about after the transaction, that's agent to sphere. right? Okay, if I was to ask you, out of 10, which one do you think ranks the highest for actual closest to white glove communication for the majority of agents?
Probably client.
To client? Do we agree on that?
Are you talking
What do you
through
think?
the prospect?
Probably client.
I was gonna say
or
prospect.
sphere.
I was gonna say it's easier with the prospect because you're just doing one.
Okay. So we got prospect and we got client. Who agrees with the best communication is with the prospect? Raise your hand. No, the best, like, actual white glove communication, the best that we agents perform that is with the prospect.
It's very close.
I don't know.
Okay. Okay. Can I just say something that's maybe gonna be truth that you don't wanna hear? The fact that we don't even know where there is white glove communication and where it's the best is a problem. What do we believe that we do as agents? Going off script of the class, what do we believe that we do?
Communicate well and help others.
Okay. What else? Okay. What else?
Accomplish goals.
Accomplish goals, okay? And what do we do as agents? We help people find their biggest best for life. So accomplish goals, counsel, communicate. I mean, I would say communicate is part of the accomplishing goals and
I would say
counseling people,
protect.
right? And if we want to be really honest, you don't have to raise your hand. You don't even have to share this number with me. Out of 10, where do you rate your communication throughout the process with your client? How many people would say that they're 8 or above? Start to finish,
I think I would.
okay?
7.5.
I mean, there's always room
Give
for
me 8,
improvement.
7.
You're like, it's not a 7, it's 7.5. It can't be right in the middle. It's a little bit better. I think that that's awesome that you guys are able to say, I am nowhere near where I have to be, right? Like, that's the point of this class, because I think a lot of times you'll have agents that are like, I'm a 10. No, you're not, because I've never actually met an agent that is a 10 start to finish. Start to finish, right? That's really hard to be a 10 out of 10, start to finish. There are companies that cannot do that. Let's just use Delta, for example, right? That's 10 out of 10 service. And what happened? A week ago, everyone hated Delta. Why? Because they made one mistake and didn't have a system in place for that issue, right? They have systems for everything else and everybody loves it. They didn't have a system for that. The multi-billion dollar company that got caught off guard, right? So if anyone was like, I'm 10 out of 10, I was gonna be like, all right, so let's start with the agent to agent, right? Part of why I asked you if you went to Value Squared, the whole part and the heart of business is value, right? How do we exchange goods and services? There's value, right? You find value in something, and that's why you pay for it, or that's why you go back. Is that correct? What are the 3 ways that we present and deliver value? If you went to that class, you know, these were in that class.
Are you talking about trust, all those?
Yep, so you establish trust, right? Then what? There's a thing that we go through on agency, so it's fiduciary responsibilities, right? Don't know how to spell it, we're just gonna do that. What's the last one? you deliver core services. And then you have the surprise and delight, right? And this is where I think everyone thinks that white glove services come in, right? Is the surprise and delight. I don't agree. I think that this is a bonus, but if you surprise and delight and you don't give the information all the way moving forward, do you believe that that's white glove service? It might take your mind off of the things that you weren't informed of, right? Like you're like, oh, that was really nice that you just sent me a cookie when we got our offer accepted. Nothing bad about that, right? But like, what does white glove actually, did they know everything up until that point, or were they like, oh, this was a really nice gift? That's a question. What do you think? Do you think that's white glove service?
Maybe it'd be white glove if it said, okay, here are the next steps.
Okay.
Here's a coupon code to crumble cookies or whatever. Don't celebrate, but
Oh, you like the red? You like red?
That one's going out.
I also think it depends on the
Look at
person.
you. That is white glove service, Aaron. Is this the one that you threw out the other day?
No,
Oh, no, that wasn't.
not
Who was
that
just
one.
talking that
That was me. I think it depends on the person. You
Okay.
have to read your client.
Yeah.
So,
Okay,
I
how do
think
you
it-
read,
I
how do you
think
do
it
that?
changes.
How do you do that? How do you read your client?
Well, I mean, I have to ask them a lot of questions.
So does that go back to trust?
Yeah, because I'm gonna be honest with you, since I took that, I have used that, absolutely used that.
The trust circle? Okay, so some of you, this is gonna be repeat. Others, you're gonna find something from it, right? So we went through this, what was it? Maybe 8 weeks ago? Maybe 8 weeks ago? How many of you are familiar with the trust circle? Yes, no?
refresh my memory.
Some of you are, yes, you remember it? Okay. So empathy, we're gonna go through this together. What's after empathy?
I just remember the trust.
Okay,
That's the most important.
it is, and I think trust means different things to different people, right? Because if I was to ask you what trust means, what does that mean to you?
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
Well, yeah, I mean, I want to be able to know that I can count on that person, that they're not lying to me.
Okay, so you would want dependability, right? And you would want honesty.
Yeah, honesty is huge for me.
Okay, so this is the secret to any relationship. Okay, I don't care if it was agent to agent. I don't care if it was agent to family, agent to prospect, agent to vendor, person to person, mother to daughter, father to son, partner to partner, right? This works for every single relationship. So if you want white glove service in every single relationship you will ever be in, it has to have trust. Would you guys agree with this? Okay, so Gary had kind of talked about this a little bit, right? I talked about this 8 weeks ago when we went over this, and I said, you know, if someone was to, I think it was Tam was also in here. And I said, let's sit down. If you were to sit down with a client, we all have these amazing listing and buyer presentations, right? I was actually talking to Jim about this yesterday. I said, why? What does the buyer presentation and the listing presentation talk about? What does it talk about? Talks about you.
In the process.
The process is absolutely part of it, but are they gonna take anything you say about the process if they don't trust you?
Like I said, I mean, I've used it since that class.
Yeah.
I've come straight out and asked, like, what do you want from me?
So I highly recommend you brand this. You put a circle in the middle of your sheet of paper make it fancy if you want, whatever color you want, and you write these 4 words, right? Don't even write trust in there because that could be like the bullet point at the end of your buyer or your listing presentation. And then you brand this to you. You sit down in front of the client or the prospect, right? This is now your buyer and your listing presentation. Okay, yeah,
In the wake of what's coming with the NAR settlement, this is
Yep.
probably the most important thing that you'll ever have to do.
absolutely. Absolutely,
More than
because
anything.
when you establish these points, right? And this is also gonna take some of this stuff with Phil Jones, because part of it is this, and then learning how to utilize this. How to utilize these 4 concepts to then show them the trust portion of it, right? But then being able to ask the questions to really truly get the answers that are gonna drive your relationship forward. Right? So let's start with empathy. So if you were to sit down and you're in front of Mr. or Mr. Seller, right? And you say to them, what does empathy mean to you? If you were them, what would you say? If I was to ask you, what does empathy mean? What would you say?
Putting yourself in their shoes.
Okay. Some people would say that's understanding. Some would say it's caring,
I would
right?
say understanding how they feel.
So empathy usually has caring as a word that people use, understanding or authenticity. Those are the 3 words that usually come up with empathy when you're asking that question, right? So let's role play this. Who wants to be the person that role plays this with me? Shane. Oh, this will be great. Okay, so Mr. Seller, who is Shane, part of what I do in this process, right, is we want to go through a few different aspects. One, we're going to start with empathy. When we talk about that, what does that mean to you?
I guess understanding where I'm at in my life and you're having genuine feelings.
Okay. And when you say understanding, what does that look like for you and me? Like, what does that look like?
I guess knowing the dynamics of my relationships with the decision makers. Knowing my financial situation, where that sits, knowing what prime reason for moving.
Okay. So what I heard from that, Shane, was it's the dynamics of your relationships that are part of this transaction, right? Your financial situation and your motivation. What would that look like moving forward of me understanding those situations? Or what is something that would make you upset if I didn't understand?
Pressuring me into certain decisions I'm not ready to make.
Okay. How do you make decisions?
Usually.
Okay, so pretty spontaneous. Okay, so do you guys see what I'm doing? We're already 4 to 5 questions deep on that. Do you think that you would have understood what he was actually saying if you would have kept going and if you'd have just been like, oh, okay, cool, empathy is understanding, right? What would have been your assumption in that moment? I know what mine would have been. How about I say it? If someone says you're understanding me, it means I'm listening and I'm taking whatever perspective I'm taking in that moment, right? That's what understanding seems like if you don't actually know what they want from it, right? Unless you keep asking those questions. So if we would have went deeper, he's like, well, I'm a pretty spontaneous decision maker. Okay, Shane, if you're a pretty spontaneous decision maker, what knowledge or what information do you need to make sure that it's not the wrong decision if it is spontaneous?
That's a really deep question.
This is a really big purchase or sale.
Can you repeat the question? Right.
So in order for, since you said you're a spontaneous decision maker, right? what information or knowledge do you need to make sure that we are in understanding of each other? And that it's not the wrong decision, so I can help with that.
I'm not entirely sure. It's mostly if it feels right, as far as, number one, I can afford it. Number two, I like it. Number three, I don't see a ton of negatives on it.
Okay, so what I heard from that is, it fits your needs and the motivation. It fits the financial aspect, and there's not a lot of risk. Is that what I hear? Okay. That's pretty deep for 6 questions in 4 minutes. Right? When you take notes on this, what would you do? We're gonna go through this kind of separately. It's gonna be in like disjointed order, right? And maybe there'll be a phase 2 to this class to actually write it out. But what would be the thing that you would provide this particular client to make sure that you're meeting this portion of trust?
Make sure that they have their budget in line.
Okay, so budget would be number 1. So when you go sell side, what are you gonna be doing every single time an offer comes in? There's gonna be a seller net sheet for this person, right? Every single offer, I would put a seller net sheet together, right? So seller net. If it was a buyer, what are you doing? Okay, cash to close, right? What else would you be doing? Part of what I would be doing is, okay, so it's not just about the monthly payment. Great, we're in a 1,500 square foot house, we're buying a 6,000 square foot house. What would be the average of the furniture that they'd have to purchase in this home? Right? What's the utilities average? You know what I mean? Like, if that is a big ticket item for them, are we going this deep in the communication? Most of the time, we're not.
I don't think I've ever asked someone about furniture, so thanks.
Because, I mean, how many,
Like going from 1,500 to 6,000.
but that's about knowing like, right, you have to think of it as a whole picture, right? Or if they're going from a 6,000 square foot house to a 1,500 square foot house, that furniture is not fitting in that South Minneapolis house. Not even close. So either way, you're still buying new furniture and it's probably gonna be custom. So this piece is so much deeper than what we think it is. Do we go that far?
Well, that's really the definition of empathy, is putting yourself in the other person's shoes. So when you're looking to make this purchase, we just maybe are so programmed to think of the things like monthly payment and cost to get in. But if you and your significant other, you yourself are going through the process of what is this gonna look like? Well, furniture and moving costs and all these things that I'm truly going through right now, to be honest. You know, we want to make sure that we walk out all the things that are going through our minds, the real estate advisor understands. Does that make sense? So,
Totally makes sense. And there's things like new construction. What is the biggest thing that people are like taken back by? They don't have any window treatments in there. And that is tens of thousands of dollars, depending on how big that house is. And if those are custom window sizes or not, right? They don't know this as a buyer. But our job, as we put them in there, is if financial, even if financial isn't, we should still be doing this. But if that's one of the biggest ticket items for them, what are we doing to make sure that every piece of that is taken care of? Right? If it's snow removal, if there's a gigantic driveway, maybe you ask them, hey, are you thinking about doing the lawn service yourself? Or are you thinking about getting that done? Well, I'm actually thinking about getting that done. Awesome. Let me get you some quotes on that just so that you truly know what it's going to look like in the summer and the winter. You say that that's white glove service in that opportunity?
Shane just left to go check on furnitures.
Yeah, he probably is. He's got three clothes. He's like, oh no, I didn't tell him about that. I said that they were gonna be fine. So, I I mean, when we think about this, what do we normally think about? And I'm guilty too. When I sold real estate as my primary and I was doing it every day and not leading, right? My whole thing was, what do you put them on? You put them on an automatic search. You put them on an automatic search for a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom. It's 3,000 square foot, plus. It's in a certain location and it's got a 2-car attached garage. Oh man, hit all the things. Right? What we don't take into account is this portion. If we have, or maybe we do, but we don't do it in depth if we haven't asked the question. When you ask them this, do you feel like they're going to feel heard? I would say you're about 150 times, if you only ask this one question out of this circle, have more trust than any other agent that they will actually interview. Just in this one question, right? So then we move on to competency. What do we say about that? What would you, if someone said, what do you think that is? Or what does that mean to you? What would you say?
Knowledge.
Knowledge?
Understanding all the form that you have signed.
Okay. Okay, so knowledge, expertise, professionalism, right? Okay, who wants to be my seller for this or buyer, whoever it is? Kevin, great.
Want to.
Kevin, great. So Kevin, I'm just curious, now that we've gotten kind of past what empathy means and what that looks like for us in a relationship, explain a little bit what this means to you.
That means that you know the things that I don't know.
Okay,
So I'm sure there are things I'm not even aware of in the transaction, and that you're competent enough to help me get through this.
okay. So let me ask you, when's the last time that you sold a home?
8 years ago.
Okay,
It's been a while.
okay. Is there anything that sticks out to you from that transaction that seemed like it was a surprise to you?
Yeah, we had a well. I had no idea that that could have been an issue.
Okay, okay, perfect. What else does competency and knowledge mean to you?
That you'll know how to negotiate the best, that you'll, yeah, like I said, you'll catch the things that I'm missing. Communication will be professional when you send it to me.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is knowledge base, negotiation, and risk management seems to be important to you.
Yeah.
Okay, can you give me an example of what that would look like, that you would expect from me?
Yeah, if there's something in the contract as we're looking at offers, I would want you to point out the things that are really important.
Okay,
If there are things that I need to do, if there are things, I'd want you to point that out.
okay. And in regards to knowledge base, is it just on the home selling process that you're interested in that portion of it? Or is there anything else that I can assist in, or at least tell you whether or not I have a skill set or expertise in that?
Well, yeah, whatever comes in, right? That's where I don't know what I don't know. So if you could share some of any of that, like if I could make something easier, I'd love to hear how I can do so.
Awesome. So what I'm hearing is that you would love to be just informed on the entire process.
That's right.
You'd love to be informed prior to whatever it is happening. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yep.
And then if there's any information that I would find pertinent that you might enjoy, it's okay that I share that
Oh,
with you.
please do, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. And Kevin, let me ask you, how do you want that information shared with you?
If it's a quick thing, you can text me. If it's a longer piece, probably an email is actually good for the stuff that's going to take a little bit of time. But if it's just a quick piece of information, a text is wonderful.
Great. And can I just ask you, are you open to phone conversations?
Always.
If it's something that's really important that we need to chat about?
Always, yeah. In fact, if you have to give me some bad news, just call me up.
Always on a phone call. Okay, perfect. All right, so here now we got the expectation on what knowledge actually means to them, right? How many people are like, don't send me another thing? How many of your clients say that? I don't want any more information.
Well, I mean, I do have clients like that.
Okay, so then you're like, great, what would you like me to send to you? Right? And part of this, the reason I'm writing this down is I'm gonna send this to them after this appointment. It's not gonna look like this. It's gonna go over the things that we just talked about, right? So financial, motivation, no pressure, minimal negatives, right? This is why I'm writing these notes, so that I can send this to the client, right? Because when that time comes where they're like, you didn't tell me this. You know what? I apologize. I guess when we went over the knowledge piece here, you said you only wanted these things sent to you. Would you like that to change? I am absolutely open to that and okay with it. I just want to make sure that we're on the same page. Right? Because now it's in writing after they signed all the documents, right? Now you can send this over in front of all of the things that they signed. If any of these change along the process, can we talk about them? Would you be open with that? Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay, great. So let's move to transparency. What does that mean to you?
Open.
Open, okay, openness, honesty, clarity, right? Okay. Okay. Awesome. Who wants to be the role play for this?
You do it.
Okay. Okay, so Chris, what I heard was you want honesty and you want openness. Is that correct?
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna be really straightforward and direct with you. There's gonna be things that are gonna be unforeseen, right? How would you like those communicated to you? Number one.
Probably a text message, and then if it's really important, you can call me.
Okay, so text message and calling you. When you talk about honesty, tell me a little bit more about that. What is your expectation on that?
Well, I know my house is worth this much money. And we've been talking about what we should list the house at. But if it is taking way too long, then I want your honest opinion. So
Okay, so can I be really transparent, right? We talked about what your house was worth, right? And I know that you have your idea. And we have these comparables, right? They're not completely eye to eye. They're not necessarily the same. We're about $50,000 difference. When the time comes and some of that information isn't going to be incredibly positive, is that something that you're going to be open to when I bring that information to you?
I probably won't like it, but I'll probably have to be open to it if I want to sell the house.
Okay, so you're giving me permission right now that when the time comes and if we are sitting on the market too long, what that looks like for a strategy. Is that correct? Okay, I hope it doesn't come to that, but I always want to make sure that we're having that conversation now, especially when we're pricing a little higher. Is that fair? Yeah. Great. Okay, so in that moment, now it's like, remember 10 weeks from now when it didn't sell? And they're like, oh, why don't we have any offers?
How about showings? I'm not even getting
Or
showings.
showings, right? And then you bring the booking, the showing time report, right? And then you bring those comps again, and then you say, Chris, remember when we had that conversation about 2 months ago? When we talked about transparency? And I asked for your permission to talk it openly and honestly with you. Are you ready for that conversation?
I don't want to hear it, but yeah. I'm
Okay,
ready.
okay.
I told you I'd be ready, but.
Okay, awesome. You know, what I'm seeing, and then you go into it, right? That feels very different than like, ring, ring, oh yeah, we haven't had any showings in about 3 weeks. What I think is, we should probably do a price improvement. We laugh, but that happens all the time. And what do you get? Well, what are you doing to market my property? That's the other piece of this. If you want transparency, and you're already having that conversation, or you're thinking of that conversation, what does your white glove communication look like from day 1 to day 60 when it hasn't sold? What's it look like? I don't know what you guys do for communication, but mine would look like this. Okay, so every Monday, right, I would say, okay, either I have an open house, here's how many people came in, right? The number of people and the feedback, right? Okay, then there's showing time stats. This is every Monday they would get this information, right? Showing time stats. In that price point, how many showings there were? How many showings were in the lower price point, right? Then we go into pendings, solds, which are at like new updates each week, coming soon, and new actives. They should already be getting this sent out to them as soon as it comes on. They should be on a buyer search when they're a seller, right? So as soon as those come on, they should be getting them, but then get it in this email every single Monday, right? So they get this information. They're probably ticked off on Monday because it hasn't sold over the weekend again. What do we do then? Well, then we do this on Tuesday. Every Tuesday, Chris is my call at 9 a.m. Hey, Chris, did you get my email yesterday? Yeah, I did. I saw 123 Main Street came on the market. It's 10,000 less than my house. Yeah, well, how do you feel about that? I feel pretty discouraged. Okay, do you want to talk about strategy on it? Sure. Now you go into these things, right? What do you got by Wednesday? Now you got the price reduction. Okay, then you go into the open house. And then you say, hey, this is how many people have viewed it on reverse prospecting. You are showing your value with every single communication. And maybe that's on Monday too. That reverse prospecting that we just went over. Hey, this sent out to 10 new people this week. You can see that. You guys know you can see that, right?
Yeah.
Sent out to 10 new people and 3 new people hearted it. You know more than they do, right? You know what I did? I called them and I asked them, have they shown this property or what can I do to get you there? This is transparency because they don't know those things. And then you can have honest conversations. All right, dependability. What does that mean to you?
That you're available, that they can depend on you to.
Do what you say you're gonna do.
Yeah.
So you set an expectation and you follow through on it, right? You do what you say. So, what do you ask in these things? Let's just talk about availability. When I was an agent selling, I sat down with every single seller and I said, here's the thing. You're hiring me to be available. I'm a human being. I have a family just like you. I am not going to be available 24/7. You are going to hear agents that say that they're going to be available 24/7. I'm going to set that expectation right now. I'm not. And you want to know the time frames that I'm not going to be available? I'm not going to be available from X time to X time. And every Sunday after 6 p.m., that's my family time, along with Wednesdays after 6 p.m. I made that very clear to every single client. Very clear. Do you want to know how? Yeah.
Kamie, I get it, but I work during the day. How am I supposed to talk to you if you're not available?
That's an absolutely great question. So in regards to you working during the day, right? I am happy to get you service during those times if it's only on Wednesdays and Sundays, which I wasn't aware that you were working all day on Sunday as well. So that's news. I love that because now you shared your schedule with me. I can absolutely have assistance with that, whether or not it's myself or someone that works on my team. If you're a solo agent, I still use someone that was not on my team. It was an agent that I relied on. Is that fair, Kevin?
That's fair, yeah.
Awesome. And before that happens, I would absolutely introduce you to that person. Right? Those times are not the times that people are usually like contacting you. If they are, you're writing the offer before 6 o'clock. The open houses are usually 11 to 1, 1 to 3, right? Like that's just what's going to happen. So setting the expectation, because you do not have to work 24/7. You get that, right? And the moment that you give in to that first call that you answer at 11 p.m. at night, You are going to be called or text at 11 PM moving forward from that day on. Guarantee it. I do that. If someone answers my text when I'm not supposed to, Heather does it all the time. I call her in the morning and she's not supposed to, but she answers, so I call her again. We have that relationship. Hey, Hen, it's 7:15. What are you doing?
It's 7:15, see you in an hour and a half.
She never does it. She always answers her phone. And I was like, hey, so I got this on my mind. I would have left a message, but she answers. Right? But if it
How
had
to do it over the weekend?
what? She doesn't answer me over the weekends when I work. I'm like, I got this. And she's like, why did you work on Saturday? I was like, well,
That's what I say to you Monday morning.
she usually does. So that's the boundary, is on the weekend, she does not answer me unless it's a fire. But this is where you get to set the expectation that you design in your business. And then they get to set the expectation as well, right? This is what I want to see of you as the agent. What does communication timelines look like? This is a big one, right? I was talking about this with Jose during his coaching appointment. And he goes, if you don't respond within 10 minutes to some of his prospects, he's like, they will find someone else. It is that immediate. So when someone's like, I want a prompt response to me, depending on the situation, can be an hour to by end of business day, right? For him, he's like, a prompt response for my prospects that are coming in is 10 minutes. If I do not respond in that time, I lose that prospect because they've already called 3 other people. He's like, that's just the nature of my client. So this is a place where you get to ask those deep questions. How do you want to be communicated? How often do you want to be communicated with? How fast of a response is okay with you? What is desired time frame of a response for you? Right? This is that place to set that expectation and completely exceed it. So then now that you went through this, right, with the client, they're going to be sitting there like, nobody's ever actually listened to me or heard me or tried to understand me like this in this process. Would you guys agree with that? Because most agents are going to come in and be like, oh, great, where do you want to live? Tell me more about that. Oh, is it a, white house? Is it a modern house? Is it a traditional house? Is it black trim? What is it, right? Like, those are the questions that they ask all the time. What's your budget? Did we talk about any of that in here? Do you think that after this, they're going to be more open to tell you exactly what they want and why they want it? And then you dig into those questions. And then you end this and you say, you're probably wondering why I asked you this in this order, in this crazy circle. Right? You're going to get some of the psychologists that are going to be like, no, that's the trust circle. And you're going to be like, oh, cool, Karen. No, just kidding. But then you can say, I want you to know I asked you these because I want you to be able to trust me and me trust you. Out of 10, where do you think we're at on that level? Right now, they get to rank it. Most likely, they're going to be like, I think I'm a 10. Right? And if they say, I'm an 8, great, what did we go over in these 4 categories that would make it a 10? What are they going to say? Right? So that took about 20 minutes when you get really good at it and you don't have to go through and explain it. This is going to take about 15 minutes of your appointment. Right? Awesome. Now that we trust each other, let's get into the real nuts and bolts of why we're sitting in front of each other. Tell me about this dream house that you want to buy. Tell me about where you're moving to and why we're doing this, right? Then you get into the story. By the end of that appointment, if they did not sign the contract, you screwed up somewhere. And that's probably in the listening portion. When you ask these questions, ask it and zip it. And zip it until you ask the question to dive in even deeper. Do you guys agree with that? Do you think that this would be helpful in your next appointment?
It is, because I've stood some.
How many objections have you gotten after you go through it like this?
I mean, I didn't do it that elaborate, but, I don't know, in today's market, for me, I feel like just sellers and buyers are so like wish-washy, uninformed, the media is telling them the wrong thing.
Yeah.
I mean, so like the listing I have right now, I mean, we were set to meet here, to really go over everything and sign the paperwork, and he was a referral, and a lot of it was done over the phone.
Yeah.
And so I came straight out and I asked him, I said, because in his email to me, he was very specific about what he wanted in an agent. And I was like, it kind of sounds like he wants a mega agent, and I am not a mega agent, So I was very forward with him about that.
Stop you right there.
Kind of getting off
If he-
subject.
If you wanted to, so if that's an objection, I want a mega agent. First of all, most people have no idea what that means,
Right.
right? Tell me, what is important about a mega agent to you? Or if he's like, I want a really high producer, that's awesome. What does high producer mean to you? And he's gonna be like, they sell a lot of homes. Okay, what's important about selling a lot of homes? Well, they know what they're doing. I think they're really great at negotiating and the expertise. Okay. So what I'd love to be able to do is build that with you because I know I can provide those services to you.
Oh, right.
Can we
I
go
mean,
through, right? So that's like the objection handler.
yeah.
For this, I think that this market is the absolute reason you should be using this. As people are questioning your value, they're questioning your commission, how easy would it be as they ask that to say, you know what? I love that you ask about commission. I love that you ask who's gonna pay me as I help you purchase this home. What we just talked about and the expectations that we just set for each other and the standards. And I'm sharing that my percentage is 3%. When this is all exceeded, do you believe that that's worth that value for taking and mitigating the risk, making sure that your decision is the knowledgeable decision? Would you agree with that? If they're like, no, great. Tell me more about that. What would be fair to you? Well, I don't have to pay anything. I absolutely understand that. And that's not something that I feel comfortable with, right? And then you get to whatever basis. Nobody's going to get you that far. And if they are, I'd just be like, hey, we just aren't the right fit. What questions do you guys have around this? Good, bad? Okay, we only got through this and it's 12 o'clock. So this might have to be like a phase 2 of the next one. I put my email up here because part of this was templates too, and some different conversations that was going to be added into this. I am absolutely willing to send those out to you, the ones that we have already templated for you. So send me an email with white glove conversation and just say, hey, I'd love the templates that you already have, and I'll send those to you. Any questions? Comments? All right, can we go over like a few things that you got out of this? Maybe 2 people sharing anything that you are going to implement or was an aha from the class?
So one of the bigger things is the trust comes from having the hard conversation that some people veer away from.
Absolutely. And they're not even hard if you have them enough. Like it makes the relationship so much deeper and it makes every other conversation easier. What else?
I like the keeping going deeper, asking another question after their answer, getting more clarity on what they're saying.
That like white glove isn't necessarily, everything being fancy or having like, your sister reach out on this day. It's about the rapport that you build and the trust that your client has, that you want to understand them, that you do understand them, you're listening to them. That's white glove.
It's like, it's feeling heard. Like, it's feeling that like important piece that's like, the other things are great. Don't get me wrong, surprise and delight you should still do, right? But that's not what makes it up. For sure. How many of you are going to use this in your appointment? Do you guys know how easy this is gonna be versus you can still have all the things about you in a packet? But they're gonna learn so much more about you by you asking these questions and who you are as a person that's representing them in one of the biggest decisions of their life, more than whatever you're gonna tell them about your sales volume or what you're great at. So if there's one thing that you take from this, I hope it's to make a circle in the middle of a page and write these 4 words down and go through this with each one of your clients. I would also say go through this with anyone that matters in your life. Right? Because it's going to allow you to communicate with them better. Hey, enjoy your Tuesday. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.